Hey, what's going on, film fans? Welcome back to our channel. We are the usual skeptics here. We talk movie reviews, entertainment news, streaming, all that sorts of good stuff going on in Hollywood. But before we get into everything, Wes, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Doing real good. Today was a good day, man. There's just a lot to talk about. A lot of good stuff, some bad. We'll figure it out.
That we will. That we will. So, just to preface this, so we're going to be talking about the Gray Man. So we just did our review. You can find on our page here. And long story short, I like the movie. Like it's okay. It's more of a meh. Wes over here, I'll let him speak for himself. But I liked it. I mean, it's fine. It definitely wasn't a boring movie. But is it a great movie? Is it a good movie? No, I wouldn't say that, but it was entertaining enough, right? And we had just talked about this movie. It's been out just for a few days
I
now. It's
think
been fine.
I think you said it. I think you said it perfectly the last time. It's serviceable.
It's serviceable. Thank you. That's the word that I personally would use, and that's the word, like you said, that I had mentioned in our closing thoughts of that video. And but Wes, just real quick, what did you think about the Gray Man? Just to kind of recap your thoughts.
Oh, no, you're fine. You didn't like it as much as I did, but I liked it just for the simple fact that I really liked the action scenes and I liked the movie. I thought it was a good movie, but it's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen or the greatest action movie I've ever seen. For me, I enjoyed it. Will I go back and watch it 20 times? Probably not. But it is a good movie.
So the Gray Man came out, a lot of people's raving about it. I think it has like a 90% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't check today, but audiences are loving it. I think it's what we talked about in our review is like, look, audiences are going to love this movie. The critics, not so much. And like we've already said, not really for us, but yeah, let's go ahead and look at this article here in link. This comes from the Hollywood Reporter with Tom Hardy there being amazing as he always is. This comes to us again from Hollywood Reporter. The Gray Man sequel with Ryan Gosling set at Netflix. So those of you who love the movie, who are super entertained by it, well, good news. There's a lot coming our way. So let's go ahead and read this a little bit here. Netflix's spy thriller, The Gray Man, is getting its own universe at Netflix. The original feature, which was produced with franchise potential in mind, will be getting a sequel as well as a spin-off movie. The sequel has Ryan Gosling and directors, in-game directors Joe and Anthony Russo, no strangers to cinematic universes, obviously with their Marvel direction, set to return with The Gray Man co-writer Stephen McFeely, and who also wrote the films that they directed for the MCU. Set to return to pen the screenplay. The Russos and Mike LaRocca, I might be saying that wrong, excuse me, will produce via their Agbo banner, along with Joe Roth and Jeffrey. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that for Kirschenbaum. Thank you for Roth Kirschenbaum Films. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about my thoughts on that. Look, has these directors been very good with under the Marvel banner? Absolutely. They gave us Civil War, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Endgame.
I was like, in-game? Come on, you got to say in-game.
Endgame. But I tell you what, when they come out with 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, I didn't love that movie. Had a lot of potential, had a lot of star power, had J.K. Simmons in there. Chadwick Boseman is great. Chadwick Boseman was, wasn't good. Cherry, love Tom Holland. I think there was a great seeds there for a great story. Ultimately didn't work for me. I'll never really see those movies again. There is an Extraction 2 being developed, by the way. But here's kind of what I'm kind of split, Wes. Because on one hand, did I love The Gray Man? No. Will I watch a sequel? Yes. I'll watch a sequel.
That's exactly
like I said, because I was entertained, right? But the question is, are we excited for a sequel? I'm going to say yes. Wes, what you hear this news? What do you think about it?
So, we're both in the same boat, man. I was, like I said, you said most of it. So, but basically, will I watch the sequel? Yeah, of course. I liked it a little bit more than you did, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But whenever you're talking about the critics and how they didn't enjoy it, I can see why, but I can also see why audiences really loved it. And it talks in the article how it grossed, second most from the Atom Project, which I love the Atom Project. I thought it was great. Me and my wife sat there and watched that, and it was awesome. So I really enjoyed that one. But to hear them say that the Russos are going to come back and do all this, it's like, okay, if you're going to come back and you're going to make this a universe, then you better bring it, because I want to be immersed in it. You gave me, Netflix has given me, Stranger Things, which I really enjoyed. And if this is what they're kind of maybe banking on to take over that, then I need a wow factor. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because the Stranger Things had the nostalgia, and I think that's what really got a lot of people our age into it, was all the nostalgia and everything like that. Okay, well, if you're not giving me nostalgia, then give me action and give me a good storyline and a good plot.
Right.
Because right now, Amazon Prime is killing it.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you've got The Boys, you've got the new Chris Pratt one that just came out, which
Oh,
is amazing.
Terminal List. Yeah. I'm hearing
Terminal
good
List.
things. Hearing good things.
Oh, it's good. It's
Is
super
it?
good, man.
I'm gonna have to catch up on that.
Um, so you have those things, and it's if they're going to do this, they need to do it the right way, and I think they can. They have the potential.
Right.
They've got in game. They've got all these things underneath their belt. So,
Yeah.
but what else you got?
No, I was just going to say, so reading this article earlier, I should have led with this a while ago, but let me tell you another reason I'm certainly open for this idea. So look at this. As for the spinoff, plot details are being kept under wraps, but Deadpool writers Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese are behind the script.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
loved Deadpool, how they were able to bring the character, the story. Now, a lot of it was Ryan Reynolds too, but
oh yeah,
these guys wrote it. These guys wrote the jokes. They wrote the lines. And Deadpool, you know what? As funny and hilarious as it was, I love Deadpool 1 more than 2. But dude, I'm not gonna lie, I had a great time with Deadpool 2 with Cable and Domino. I loved it.
mhm.
The whole X-Force scene where they jumped out of the plane. I'm like, this is going to end horribly, and then it did, and it was just magnificent, right? Brilliant. But there was moments in the first Deadpool movie where I actually felt some emotion. I mean, I wasn't sobbing or anything, but I was like, man, I really, really care about this character. It's just a man trying to get back to his wife. I mean, take away the humor, the gratuitous humor, the or if you can call it that, the gore,
The
the
awesomeness.
violence, take away all of that. You're left with the story about a man trying to get back to his wife, and at fear of her not, wanting to get him back.
Reciprocating. Yeah,
Right. And there's something beautiful about that. That fact that these writers are coming back for the spinoff, hey, you got me. I'm gonna tune in. Am I typically excited for Netflix projects? Not really. But that alone, you telling me that with the spinoff, I mean, details are being kept under wraps, obviously, but I could see the spinoff about being maybe other agents or,
yep.
things like
That's
that.
what I
But
was thinking too.
right. So I mean, there's a whole like, again, was the story like, I think it's a great premise, right? You have an assassin who is trained and hired over the course of 18 years, because that's how the movie opens. It's 18 years he's been training to be this assassin, and he's very good at it, right? I don't need a backstory on how. I don't need none of that. Just give, because we don't on John Wick. We're almost getting John Wick 4, and we still don't have we have a good idea about maybe where he came from, but not really. And we don't care because the character's awesome, because the script is awesome. So for this,
Facts.
I don't need this to be the next John Wick. I don't. I just want it to be good and entertaining. And I think they left the seeds. I think they're going to learn from this because, again, as
Hmm.
much as I love the Russo brothers, I don't think they said anything about director for the spinoff. But dude, I'm excited. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm excited, but let us know what your thoughts are on The Gray Man. Number one, did you like the film? Are you excited for the sequel and the spinoff announcement? Definitely let us know in the comments. Do you think it's a good idea for Netflix to open up this universe mere days after the release of The Gray Man? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and let us know what you think. All right, Wes, with that down, let's go ahead and talk about the next topic here. So, again, just to preface everything, moving in phase 4 of the MCU, we haven't really loved a lot of the films like we did with previous phases. I like Multiverse of Madness. I enjoyed Black Widow. Will I watch it again? Probably not. Florence Pugh is amazing. She definitely stole the show without making it feel like her movie, other than, taking away from ScarJo, which I think is an amazing feat to do. She just killed it. And I really enjoyed elements of Black Widow. Overall, I didn't love it. Thor Love and Thunder, I didn't love it. I tell you what I really enjoyed was Shang-Chi. Really, like, there was so much charm and heart, and you know, it was, I was very perplexed, and it was very majestic. This film, is it my favorite of the MCU films? No, but I would say it's one of the best films of the Phase 4 right now. I mean, that's not saying much, but at the end of the day, I think Shang-Chi delivered on a very entertaining movie. Dude, you had Leon, is it Tony Leung as that plays his dad? Oh
Mhm.
my God. Was he not fan freaking tastic in that movie? The relationship with him and Shang-Chi's mom, the relationship between, Shang-Chi and is it Karen? What's her name? I already forgot her name. Aquafina's character.
Aquafina.
I know, but what's the
That,
character's name? I can't.
I don't
Is it
even remember.
Kim or something like that? I
Yeah,
can't
something like
remember.
that.
I'm so sorry. I've only been able to see the film once. I've wanted to go back, but that was still in theaters, kind of a little iffy about the time when that came out, at least around where you and I live. But I enjoyed Shang-Chi like a lot. But a lot of that movie was direction. And Destin Daniel Cretton, I didn't really know much about him. Wasn't really familiar with his work, but the way he conducted this film, it was just masterful. I thought it was excellent. Is it a perfect movie? No. But when you take everything into consideration, beautiful movie. Again, I would use the word majestic. I mean, there was just something bad. The third act kind of got a little borderline much for me, but I know you, and you've went off on this film about how much you enjoyed it. What do you think, man? What
I was just letting you
I
go
know
on about it,
I
Helm.
know well, because I know I'm about to give you this because I'll just go ahead and let you say you love this movie. I think that might
Oh
be an
yeah,
understatement.
yeah, yeah, dude. This movie, I mean, I've probably watched it 5, 6 times. I can't believe I can't remember
I
Aquafina's
remember you telling me. You're like,
name,
just watch Shang-Chi
but
again.
it's so good. I really did enjoy it, and I agree with Gabe, man. I think that it was the direction of how the film was shot from the very beginning. Whenever you're kind of like because I didn't know anything about it, I didn't know,
Right.
and I went into it just not knowing, and then you know that first fight scene whenever they're on the tram. I mean, that was ball. Like I love that scene.
It's
That
so
was
fun.
great.
It was fun.
The essence of it, kind of, sort of like they did like um, Hidden Tiger, whatever the
Oh,
hidden, yeah,
Crouching Tiger,
um,
Hidden Dragon.
yeah,
Yeah,
Crouching
yeah, yeah.
Tiger, Hidden
Yeah.
Dragon esque type deal. Whenever his father and the mother like got
Oh, it
together
was
and they did
beautiful.
it in a better way. It was just
Yeah.
so good. You know what I mean? I thought that it was just I was just, and it was emotional too. Like you just get that emotion
Yep.
and all that good stuff. And the actor who plays Shang-Chi, you
Simu
know,
Liu.
so good. So
Very
good.
good.
And Aquafina in her own right is hilarious, bro. She is
Awesome.
great. And I like the fact that the whole film, you're like, they're gonna do something stupid and make these two, you know, um, fall in love together or something like that. And by the end, you're just like, no, they're best friends, just hanging out. Like
Right.
that was great.
It's
I
like
was
you
like,
don't need a
thank you.
relationship.
I was
Like
like,
like a
thank you.
yeah, romantic relationship.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah, yeah,
need
yeah.
it. Like it was great how it
It's
is,
just friends, yeah.
And then you've got, like the cut scene at the end was fantastic. Whenever they had Wong and they're like, or
Oh
and
my
then they
God.
go,
The post
oh
credit
yeah,
scene,
and then
yeah, that
yeah,
was
yeah,
good.
yeah,
That was
where they're
good.
going and they're singing karaoke, like that stuff's great,
Yeah.
man. Like, it had the perfect amount of like action. It had the perfect amount of like funniness and seriousness, and then you learn about the culture of that the Japanese and all
Oh
that other
yeah, yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that they're, yeah, you know what I
Chinese.
mean. You
But
like,
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
but like
Still,
one of the
the whole
coolest things
mythology
was
and yeah.
was like the fucking dragon dog looking things. Those are fucking awesome, dude.
That was
Those
fun.
are
That was fun.
great, man.
I tell you
Dude,
what.
all the mystical creatures, and then you got the
Yeah.
Mandarin. Like, well, the Mandarin. Oh
Oh
man,
my
just
God,
like,
that was hilarious.
sorry, I know I'm going on a rant, but like,
No,
dude,
no, you're fine. Well,
I
it's
love that
just to
movie,
give
dude.
people that's watching this just our general thoughts about the film. But Wes and I really, really enjoy this movie. I think it's great. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say I love it. It's blah blah, but it's great. It really is. It's definitely in the top half of the MCU films, which is a lot to say, to be honest with you. Wakanda Forever, I think if I done my math right, will be 30. I think it'll be 30 films in the MCU. I think I'm
Shang, yeah, Shang-Chi is probably is my favorite of this
phase
Phase
4.
4.
Is it? I would say, yeah. Yeah,
That
I can
and
agree with
then
that.
Multiverse of Madness. Like those are my
Yeah,
top. Yeah, well,
I can see that. But yeah, so talking about Shang-Chi, so Comic-Con was this past weekend, and Kevin Feige during the Marvel Studios panel didn't announce one Avengers project, but two in the same year. In Avengers the Kang Dynasty, and topping it off just a few months later with Avengers Secret Wars. Now all of us have kind of said, people like you and me, a lot of people have said, yeah, that we're probably going towards Secret Wars. I personally didn't think so, but the more time went by, I was like, yeah, that's probably what they're going to do. They're going to take major storylines from the comics as influential stories and adapt it. But that's a video and story for a different time. So we now have a director for Avengers 5, The Kang Dynasty, which is surprising. When I read this headline, I was like, wait, what? Sorry, let me see if I'm pronouncing it right. Destin Daniel Cretton has been tapped to direct Avengers, The Kang Dynasty. And so, again, this comes to us from Hollywood Reporter. They're giving us all the news today. So Avengers Kang Dynasty to be directed by Shang-Chi filmmaker Destin Daniel Cretton. And yeah, so this is just incredible news. Let's go ahead and read down here just a little bit. Kevin Feige now Saturday, like I said, with Avengers Kang Dynasty. I about said Kang of something else, and that was about to be bad.
the Kang Dynasty,
The Kang
and Secret
Dynasty,
Wars.
and the Secret Wars. Yes, Shang-Chi, grossed 432 million worldwide. I mean, very successful. And he has works in Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community. Look, and not just long ago, it was actually reported that Destin Daniel Cretton had an overall Disney Plus like deal overseeing some projects. That tells me Kevin Feige loved what he had with Shang-Chi. Kevin Feige always puts a lot of, stuff about, what filmmakers can bring forth great characters and great story. This is one that can do it. And I'm actually very, very excited. This got me even more excited for Kang Dynasty. Obviously, they're going to pick a director that they believe is going to carry, this film. And something as huge as this is you're going to have a talented director. If you would ask me the top 5 directors that I would pick, I don't personally do that. I don't know if you do, Wes, or not, but I don't personally do that. Just give me someone who has a good, report card and send them on their way. This is a filmmaker that I believe had, I think he's earned it. Just considering what he did with Shang-Chi, the projects in development that he's got with the MCU Disney Plus shows and things like that. That tells me they're loving his vision. They're loving, no pun intended, they're loving his style. And I'll tell you what, here's another reason why I'm excited for this. So let me tell you, I think that the reason they tapped this man to direct this is because he knows how to carry characters. Characters are going to be so vital. I mean, yeah, the stories for one, yes, absolutely. But the characters is what's going to be carrying this movie. We're going to have to care about these characters. If you think we're going to have 2 or 3 main characters in Avengers Kang Dynasty, you haven't been watching the Avengers films. These Avengers films are made for spectacle. They're made for wonder. They're made for awe. They're made for marvel. See what I did there? So that was horrible. I'm going to leave now. But the fact that they were able to get Mr. Cretton in there to direct this, I think it's because, what gets me excited personally is he knows how to carry characters. He knows how to tell a cohesive story. What better man to do that that's already in the MCU, already got his toes wet in a big Marvel film, give him an Avengers film. I'm totally okay with that. Wes, what do you think? Does this, excite you more for the Kang Dynasty than it
Oh
was over the
yeah.
weekend?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like I said, I really enjoyed the movie, and I'm not gonna go back into it, but like to hear that, and I think you're right. For somebody to be able to come in and like tell a story with the characters, because that's what you want whenever you get these huge Avengers films,
Right.
is telling each person's story, but not like overbearing it with too many things. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you've got to be able to tell each person's story and be in and out because you've got so many people in it. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you have to care about each one of those characters in a certain way. Like, of course, whenever Endgame came around, you cared more about the Iron Man situation and stuff like that, at the very end, and Thor, and the main Avengers, because you knew that was Endgame. You get what
Right.
I'm saying? But you also had the side stories of Chris Pratt and Gamora and all that you were trying to, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
you get those little elements of everybody having their own little story everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it comes to this, the first thing I thought about whenever it said the Kang Dynasty was like, okay, they've got big plans for Shang-Chi. Because if you think about it, like I think of
Yep.
Dynasty, I think of, of like, that whole, dynasty, like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Kind of like a
Japanese
like
or
a like a mythic, like
yeah. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Yep.
Japanese culture, like the
Right.
dynasties and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, they've got big plans for him. Plus, if you remember at the end of Shang-Chi, at one of the cut scenes,
Hmm.
they're looking at
Yep.
the 10
That's
rings,
what I was
and they're just
just about
like,
to bring up. Yep.
and they're looking at the 10 rings, and they're like, oh man,
Sending a
there's
signal.
something in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sending a signal to somebody, but they're like, what is that? So it's got to do, like, I think they've got big plans for Shang-Chi to become a main player in this
Right.
phase, in the phases and stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that, some people may take a back seat, and that's okay,
That's
but
fine.
I think that they've got a big thing planned for this, and I think that it'll have to do with the 10 rings and all this other, you know what I'm
Oh, for
saying? Like,
sure. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's the next thing I was going to bring up is look, he he was able to introduce something, not to say that it's a MacGuffin, but introduce a new element to the MCU and the Ten Rings and how powerful they are. And we've seen what they can do under the hands of someone who, wants to use it for selfish needs or things like that. And then we've seen them in the hands of someone more level headed, such as a Shang-Chi. And we got a Ten Rings reference, several of them in Miss Marvel that was never expounded on. And I found that a little odd, but fine. It's whatever. But no, you're right. I think this, I mean, once we seen the post credit scene, we were like, whoa. So this is obviously playing a bigger role. We're definitely going to be touching back on this soon. It's been over a year and we still nothing, but okay, that's fine. But at the same time, bringing on the Shang-Chi director, it's no coincidence that they brought in the same director to. Do I think Kang Dynasty is going to end on a cliffhanger? Probably, because they got another Avengers film. Again, I'm going to reiterate what I said in our Marvel Studios panel recap. I don't think that the Secret Wars, that's not coming out the same year. I just don't. I mean,
can
as
you
we
just
get
stop?
as
Can
we
you
get
just give me some
closer,
hope? Just
it's
hush. No, stop. We're done.
dude, you know me. I would love to have two Avengers films in a year. I just don't see it. But I could be wrong, but we'll see.
I
Time will
hope you
tell.
are. I
Uh,
think you are. Just shut up and go on to the next
just,
one. I ain't
just
got time
move
for you.
on. Just move on. But no, I am excited. I think a lot of people are going to be. I think everybody is certainly excited. And just the fact that they brought in a filmmaker who knows what the crap they're doing, again, has already directed a film in the MCU, has already got, knows how to tell a good story while balancing good characters and drama and, action choreography, because we know it's Avengers, so it's going to be action heavy. So for him to do this, I'm excited. I can't wait. Who knows? Let's see who the writers are too. Maybe he'll write
Right.
it. I don't know. But that'd be fun. Anyway, let us know what you guys think. Does this excite you more for Avengers, the Kang Dynasty? Let us know in the comments and let us know what you think. All right, Wes, let's go ahead and talk about our last topic here. So this one, buckle in, because we're going to go in not too long, but it is worth noting. It is worth talking about because there's a lot in here. Wes, just real quick, just to tell you all watching this, I went to film school and learned that's where I gained most of my knowledge about kind of what happens behind the scenes. I took my degree was just digital filmmaking, but I took classes in a little bit of everything going on behind the camera, pretty much everything except top build talent, things like that. I've learned how to direct. I've learned how to write a screenplay. I've learned, how to hold a light. I learned the sound and learned editing, learned a lot of stuff. And one of the things that we kind of touched upon a little bit was visual effects. We know our superhero movies, they love their visual effects. And we've been hearing the past couple weeks that VFX companies aren't happy with Marvel right now. But
So what he's saying is he's also learned how to talk. So, but he knows a lot. Gabe knows a lot about this sort of behind the scenes stuff, which is why like I wanted to do this with him, because he does know a lot about film and he does know a lot about that stuff. I'm just your average moviegoer that knows a lot more about things than most people do, just because I like to read about them. But Gabe's actually experienced this stuff. So whenever we're going through this, he's probably going to talk a lot more. I'm going to talk about my perspective of what I'm seeing on the page. Do you know what I'm saying? So, because there's a lot of stuff in here to kind of unpack and be like,
it's a lot.
So we can go ahead and get into it. I just wanted to preface, like, you may be talking more on this because you just know how it is whenever they're doing the things that they're doing. And I
personally know some people that work in VFX. So, I mean, I do know a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm like a connoisseur in this subject area, but it is worth talking about for sure. So this article comes to us from the Vulture. And this is a great article. Again, just buckle up here because it's going to be a little crazy. I love the title of this, by the way. I'm a VFX artist and I'm tired of getting pixel effed by Marvel. So there was anonymous people, in this article. Let's go ahead and just read this first paragraph here, and we'll just kind of tackle it as we go. It's pretty well known and even darkly joked about across all the visual effects houses. Working on Marvel shows is really hard. Any visual effects is certainly hard. Very talented people are in visual effects. When I worked on one movie, it was almost 6 months of every time of my day. I was working 7 days a week, averaging 64 hours a week on a good week. Marvel generally works you really hard. I've had coworkers sit next to me, break down, and start crying. I've had people having anxiety attacks on the phone. Unless your job, by the way, just real quick, unless your job starts with doctor, veteran, first responder, that should not be happening. You should not be breaking down, crying. And look, this is coming from someone who...
You want to come do some sales with me right quick?
Does it make you say, "Oh my cry"?
Bro,
all I'm getting at is the job should not be that stressful, and that's what this article talks about. But again, that's
why I have adult beverages at night.
That is right. He's drinking apple juice.
I am drinking apple juice.
The studio has a lot of power over the effects houses. That's true, just because it has so many blockbuster movies coming out, and that's what employs. So what Wes was talking about a while ago is he said that I kind of have a little bit of a background here. I just want to talk about that because this first sentence really brings up a good point. The studio has a lot of power over effects houses because look, studios Disney doesn't have their own visual effects company. If you watch a movie at the end of the credits, it shows you blocks. So just real quick, I watched the Infinity War bonus features. I can't remember how many visual effects houses companies who worked just on Thanos. I mean, it was a lot. I'm not talking 30, 40. I think it was up to almost 100. I could be wrong on the exact number, but it was at least borderline in the triple digits. How many visual effects companies worked on that? I mean, it was a lot. Again, I could be wrong. I could be thinking of something else. I could be mistaken. Definitely correct me if I'm wrong. But either way, it was a lot. But what I'm getting at is studios don't own their own visual effects houses. They find contract work and get a hold of a visual effects company, sometimes several at one time for one project, and we'll say work on this. We'll pay. Here's your budget. Give us what you can get. Right. That's how movies work. I'm oversimplifying it. It's certainly more to it than that, but that's basically what they do with huge blockbusters, especially visual effects heavy ones, such as the Star Wars. They have ILM, but they also have other Industrial Light and Magic, but they also have other VFX companies to work on these films. So it's not like studios are like, oh, let's just send it down to this. It's not like Warner Brothers makes Dune, right? And it's not like they go, oh, let's just send them to down the street in our other Warner Brothers visual effects office. That's not how it works. there's a lot more to it than that. But just to let y'all know, that's pretty much how that works when a film is made. Is as they're in post production, they send these off to let's say it's a whole scene. They send it off to a visual effects company. They say, okay, have you work on this for me. But going on back on this paragraph here, if you upset Marvel in any way, this is crazy here. If you upset Marvel in any way, there's a very high chance you're not going to get those projects in the future. So the effects houses was trying to bend over backward to keep Marvel happy. Why would they be doing that, Wes? Ask me why. Ask me why they want to keep Marvel happy.
Oh, because they pay money, homie.
Because they pay money. They want to stay employed. Why would you tell your employer? Why would you tell them, no, I'm not doing this visual effects for you. No, I will not take this job, because you know what that'll do? That won't put food on the table for Jimmy and Susie. That's how these VFX companies are. That's how they're, operational. Is they have people like Marvel paying them bukus of money. But it sounds like they're not getting the money deserved, at least, and especially, dude, 64 hours, and that's just for one little team. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
So for me,
Okay.
I'm in sales, and so I'm selling food to your parents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's people out there that I sell stuff to that literally they're buying from me, but I make no money because of how big of a restaurant they are.
Right.
I have a deal in with my company. Do you know what I'm saying? To where they're getting their food pennies on the dollar.
Right.
So I make nothing, but I work my tail off for them.
Right.
Because it's so I can relate. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, this is how I'm relating to this. So
Right.
I work my tail off to make sure that they get their food, make sure they get it on time, make sure they get, quality food, all these things, and these deals are in place and they don't come out of place. And then so, I'm busting my tail whenever, I'm not making hardly anything off of them. But I go down the road and I go to, some other restaurant that treats me well, like family, and it's a partnership where, I make money and they make money because they're getting I feel like I should be giving them the better service than,
Joe Schmo and
Joe Schmo down the
another
road
distribution
who's
company.
doing
Right.
correct. So, I mean, for me, I can relate to that in my sense of work. So, I mean, I
Right.
get it, man. Like, you're busting your tail and you're not making anything.
Oh,
So,
I agree, and definitely well put. And this next paragraph here definitely goes into a little bit that what you're talking about, and you might can elaborate a little more on how this
mhm.
how you're kind of seeing it, Wes. But right here in this next paragraph, these are people that are actually in the know. Vulture's a very reputable site, and what they're saying here, it's not Joe Blow's. Sorry, not Joe Blow. That's an actual site. It's not some Joe Snuffy website. People like you and me writing this. This is coming from Vulture. This is coming from actual people that have been through this, and it gets crazy here, guys. So definitely buckle in to get work. The houses, they pretty much break down the process here. To get work, the houses bid on a project. They are all trying to come in right under one another's bids. With Marvel, the bids will typically come in quite a bit under, and Marvel is happy with that relationship because it saves money. But what ends up happening, here's where it gets crazy, is that all the Marvel projects tend to be understaffed. Excuse me, where I would usually have a team of 10 VFX artists on a non-Marvel movie, On one Marvel movie, I got two, including myself. So that's several projects just with a 10-person team. So every person is doing more work than they need to. Here's something that I'm going to see if this paragraph talks about it here. The other thing with Marvel is it's famous for asking, here it is, for lots of changes throughout the process. So you're already overworked, but then Marvel comes in asking for regular changes, ways in of excess of what any other client does. That's crazy. And some of those changes are really major. Maybe a month or two before a movie comes out, Marvel will have us change the entire third act. It has really tight turnaround times. So yeah, it's just not a great situation all around. One visual effects house could not finish the number of shots and reshoots Marvel was asking for in time, so Marvel had to go give my studio the work. Ever since, the houses have effectively been blacklisting from getting Marvel work, basically saying, hey, if you don't do this like I pay you to do, coming in kind of poking at them, saying, hey, if you don't get this done for me, I'm not going to employ you anymore. That is
Hey,
such a, I'm going to keep it tame. I'm keeping it tame here. I love Marvel. Dude, my whole arm is tattooed with Marvel. But I don't care. I don't have loyalty to any brand whatsoever. If a company is doing something shady and stupid, I'm going to call them out on it. If this is true, again, I don't know this. I'm not this person writing. I don't know this. And Wes, you don't, and those you watching, you don't know this either for a fact. But if what they're saying is true, this is bad. This is bad for the industry. I mean, think about it. Just a quick example that all of us know. If you remember the first trailer to Thor Ragnarok, where it showed Thor in an alleyway in New York, it looked like in New York, and that's when Hela caught Mjolnir, and that was in the trailer. Well, in the final product in the movie, that happened in Norway.
mm-hmm.
Guess what? Taika Waititi said, "Yeah, it just seemed like more of an appropriate place. Like I didn't want Odin." I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, and this come from Taika Waititi. He said, "Yeah, basically, I didn't want Odin to die. Feel like he just died in an alleyway. I wanted him to die somewhere beautiful and peaceful." And I look, I'm personally okay with the change. That's great. But could you imagine if that was one of the instances where Marvel was like, yeah, I want that changed, and you have like a little less than a month to do it? Are you freaking kidding me? I've edited short films. I've done visual effects before on a minuscule level. I didn't do nothing like Thanos crazy. Obviously not. I'm not that good. And that stuff costs
We
money.
wouldn't be doing this, homie, if
No,
you've
we
been doing
oh no. If I was making that money, bruh. But no, I no, but I do know what it's like. So if I'm overworked and stressing out about a project that I have to be done in a month for a short film, imagine an entire film. Imagine a whole sequence of VFX
Oh,
shots.
dog.
Dude, it's crazy. So it gets a little wild here. Um,
Well, I
that's
mean, like, so this to me, the way I'm reading this, and kind of going over it, it brings me back to like me working in restaurants or
yeah,
being a chef and being a caterer, and you're having, you've got a catering job where you're feeding 200 people, and then literally 2 weeks before it's done, they're like, oh, by the way, um, the grandmother's allergic to blah blah blah, so you need to change this menu to this and this and this, like that sort of stuff. And it's like, hey, you want me
happens
to
all the
fix her
time.
just you want me to
Yep.
fix just a little separate plate for her? No, no, like nobody gets it. If she doesn't want it, we can't. And it's like,
Yep.
dude, I've
And
ordered all this food,
I
and
don't
then
know.
like,
And
you know,
we run a business and downtown, and we've had circumstances where people would order catering, let's just say for 50 people, right? And we
mhm.
make it. It's made. It's ready to go.
Oh
We're
yeah.
done getting paid for it, and they're like, "Hey, can you add 30 more things?" And
It's
it's
like
like,
that. Yeah, yeah, I
and
know.
then what are you going to say? No. I
So it's a
mean,
perfect example because you want the money, but that's the whole thing.
exactly.
You want the money,
And
but at the same.
but you're now overworked. Is it worth
Mhm.
it? Is it worth the stress? Do you have the manpower? Is the money worth it? Like there's so many
But
things.
talking about that too, it's like whenever they said it to be blacklisted or whatever because they didn't get it done, it's the same thing. Like
We've had
with
that
what we
happen.
how we relate is word of mouth spreads, and especially
Yep.
where we live, word of
Small
mouth
town.
spreads. So that one time, it's like, oh well, they didn't do the job that I asked them to do.
Right.
And then that person tells that person or whatever, and then all of a sudden nobody wants to get caterings from me. Nobody wants to get cakes from
Right.
my mom. Like nobody wants to do that.
Because
Like,
it can happen even if someone has the best intention, right?
mhm.
Of not trying to be rude, not trying to be a jerk about it, but it happens. And that's fine that it happens. But what the frustration comes in is, you're running a business, and at the end of the day, movie business is a business nonetheless. And I think it goes on in here to very, well put out is right here. Part of the problem comes from the MCU itself, just the sheer number of movies it has. It sets dates and it's very inflexible in those dates, yet it's quite willing to do reshoots and big changes very close to the dates without shifting them up or down. This is not a new dynamic. I remember going to a presentation by one of the VFX houses about an early MCU movie, and people were talking about how they were getting pixel effed. That's a term we use in the industry when the client will nitpick over every little pixel. Even if you never notice it, a client might say, that's not exactly what I want. And you keep working at it because, again, what are you going to say? No, because you want that Marvel cheddar. But they have no idea what they want. So they'll be like, can you just try this? Can you just try that? They'll want you to change an entire setting, an entire environment pretty late in the movie. And again, that happens too. It's like, oh, can you change this detail in this food? Can you change, just talking about the service or the work that Wes and I do?
Yeah, the
It's
service
like,
industry,
do you
man,
want,
that
do you
happens
want
all the
to,
time, man.
right. It's like you make this thing for this amount and it's like, oh, can you change this? It's not a big deal. Just do this. And it's like, are you kidding me? Doing what that little thing you want me to do, I have to totally Frankenstein and reconstruct what I'm doing for you. So I totally understand, definitely on a
Oh,
smaller scale for sure.
completely.
The main problem is most of Marvel's directors aren't familiar with working with visual effects, which is very true, very, very well put. A lot of them have just done little indies at Sundance Film Festival and have never worked with VFX. Look, I've worked with green screen. I've worked with completely 100% live action, no VFX shots, nothing. Let me tell you, it is a different world, especially because I've edited my own stuff. I've directed, produced, and edited my own stuff. I know what it's like to shoot with complete a short film with no VFX. I'm talking a 15-20 minute movie. But I've also done films with a little bit of VFX in them. And let me tell you what, I've done that myself. I didn't hire nobody. Guess what? Because it's a personal project. It's something that I do. I know what it's like. This is on just a far much bigger scale. And to me, that stresses me out just reading about it. The main problem is Marvel's talking about visual effects. They don't know how to visualize something that's not there yet. That's what I'm talking about when I say, when somebody says, hey, get a talented filmmaker to do this movie. It's like, well, you want a good director because what a good director will do, not only know how to work with directors, not only know how to tell a cohesive narrative and story, but they're going to have to learn how to deal with VFX. They're going to have to be able to come in here and visualize something that's not there, because I don't know if you knew this, Wes, but Thanos isn't real. You know what they had to talk?
Right.
You know how they had to talk to James Spader when he played Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron? He had a tennis ball that was attached to a thing on James Spader's back, and the actors had to look at that ball. Dude, talented actors, a talented filmmaker, talented crew will know exactly what to do, and that's what takes planning. That's what takes time and effort, and then you got to send that to VFX companies, and they got to make it work, right? And the director's right there with them most of the time. So Marvel starts. That's not said with. Yeah. Okay. So
You can skip
Marvel.
down just a little bit, man.
Oh, right here.
'Cause I mean,
Marvel often
yeah.
asks them to be delivered high quality. Basically talking about what they're kind of wanting. The other issue is when we're still in post production, we don't have a director of photography involved, so we're coming up with shots a lot of the time. It causes a lot of incongruity. Thank you. A good example, I went to public school. A good example of what happens in these scenarios is the battle scene at the end of Black Panther. The physics are completely off. Suddenly the characters are jumping around, doing all these crazy moves like action figures in space. Suddenly the camera's doing these motions that haven't happened in the rest of the movie. It looks a little cartoony. It has broken the visual language of the film. And dude, I totally agree. Things need to change. I think we're at the tail end here. Things need to change two ends of the spectrum. Marvel needs to train its directors on working with visual effects and have a better vision out of the gate. The studio needs to hold its directors' feet to the fire more to commit to what they want. The other thing is unionization. there is a growing movement to that because, blah, 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 blah. Some of the problems I mentioned are universal to every show and every project, but you end up doing less overtime on other shows. You end up being able to push back more on other directors when they say like, hey, I want this. You can be like, that doesn't make any sense. Not every client has the bullying power of Marvel. Wes, we read this at length. We see how crazy it is in the VFX world. I hope that Marvel changes this moving forward. What I don't want is a company such as Marvel, the biggest franchise in Hollywood right now, because if they do this, that can cause enough people, and this word's getting out there. It's now hit Vulture. We've heard about this for several weeks now of people like on Twitter being like, look, I used to work at VFX. I couldn't handle it anymore. It was giving me anxiety. I was stressed out and it wasn't worth it. Was it, good getting all that cheddar? Yeah. But not when you're working. Literally, you have to work and then sleep on a cot and I know people that have done this, that had to work on sleep on a cot for an hour or two, get back up in the office and go right back to work. That's messed up. It shouldn't be like that. And maybe there's something to grow from this. Wes, you hear all this going on. What's kind of your final thought on that? And do you think that, that there should be a change? Do you think that, other studios should maybe keep in mind, because we're not hearing this about any other studios. Maybe this is only happening with Marvel. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it's gonna get down to the fact where these, and I hope that it doesn't, and I hope that this is not like as bad as what this person is saying it is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But if it is, I mean, you're talking about visual effects companies talking to each other and being like, we're gonna tell them no. Like, you got my back, I got your back. You know what I'm saying? And then it's gonna, like, they're talking about unionization. But I mean, and once that happens, it's like, okay, Marvel, now what are you gonna do?
Right.
And talking about whenever they had, you were telling in the article they were saying that the director has no idea about what visual effects does. It's just like going into a restaurant and dealing with dealing with people that have never ran a restaurant before.
Right.
It's frustrating. If you've never been in the industry, don't buy a restaurant. Just don't. It's not like I'm being dead serious. It's just like,
totally agree.
You need to have been in the dirt and grime and understand how everything works and how turnover works and all that stuff, because if you're not, then it's probably not going to turn out well. And then I can't help you as a salesperson. I can only do so much.
Right.
But
because what do you do? What do you do when your employer says, okay, you don't, here's where I have the problem. I'm okay with them getting a lot of work. That to me, that's fine. And when they say, hey, it's not that easy, the problem in this article, just want to make it clear, the problem is Marvel saying, bitch, you know who we are? We're Marvel. Right. You're going to do it. That's the part that I can't, really irks me. Now, at the same time, what do you do when you're a VFX studio? You're supposed to say no? Yeah.
See, here's the thing. The person that I'm talking about. There's a person who likes to bully people like me in the sales field.
Yep.
Who sit there and they're like, no, you're going to do this because I'm the owner of this restaurant and I pay you to get
That's what I pay you to do. Yeah. Yep.
No, sir. Like, no, that's not gonna work out for me. And it hasn't, and he knows it. And now, down the road, he's understood, oh, well, I can't bully Wes because I'm not gonna take it. I'll sit there and, tell him to shove it and go on about my business. I've done it plenty of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But it's the same thing. Like, they're just going to get fed up and be like, no, this is not how this works. But I also don't want it to be too millennial and too soft and, people getting their feelings hurt whenever it's not really.
Yeah, there's a line that you got to kind of, and every scenario is different, I'm sure. And I'm sure, look, who knows? Maybe there's, let's say Warner Brothers. I'm just guessing. I'm just spitballing here. But let's say, I know this is a crazy example, but let me use The Matrix, for example. VFX heavy, right? let's say it just recently came out, the in 1999, and now VFX totally different now. Completely get it. But that movie holds up very well with VFX, by the way. But let's say that Matrix just came out and they're working with Warner Brothers, and there's a VFX house that completed a sequence, let's say. And last minute, the director or whoever says, or the producer, because they're basically in charge at that point because it's their money, it's the studio's money. They're like, "Hey, change this, sir, ma'am, whatever." I don't think we can do that for X and Y and Z reasons. Okay, you know what? Do the best you can. Cool. I appreciate the talk. I don't have a problem with that because that's just how it works. It's a communal. If that makes you see what I'm saying, it's a multi-sided thing where you collaborate, and that's what
Oh, I know.
filmmaking is. It's a collaboration, and you want to work with your employee or not employee, but you want to work with your employer, and you want to work with the people who you're employing, and you want to kind of meet in the middle with some things and compromise. And there's nothing wrong with that in the business, because at the end of the day, it's business, and there's nothing wrong with that where something happens. Every scenario is different. Some VFX are harder than others. I get that. Some are more massive than others. I get that. But when you have 100 studios working on Avengers Infinity War, and you're like, bruh, it's like, no, I want
Yeah.
Thanos to face this way. And it's like, dude, do you know like how much resources that's going to take? Do you know how long that's going to take? Oh, but we're Marvel. It's not, oh, okay, hey, no problem. Let us give you another 10 million to do this entire sequence over again. Like, I don't see a problem in maybe even that. But when you're at the point bullying and you're saying things like, we're going to blacklist you, that's where it gets shady, and that's very dangerous.
But like I said, there's two sides to every story, homie.
That's true.
So,
And that's why I said
so
earlier, you never
that's why
know,
I'm optimistic about it, because
right?
there's a lot of people that get butt hurt nowadays about a lot of stuff that is
Who knows?
just stupid.
Some people could have the same scenario and it not bother them. My wife, she gets stressed out about things that I don't get stressed out about. I get stressed out about things that she don't get stressed out about. That's just how we are as a human species. We're all different. So there could be people in the same situation. Hey, maybe not bother this certain VFX house, or maybe this doesn't affect that this maybe let's say the same project was assigned to two different teams. That doesn't happen, but let's just hypothetically say the same sequence was used for these two VFX houses. Okay, it might stress out one the crap out. Maybe one of them's parents just died. Maybe one of them just lost their kid at the pool. I don't know. I'm just thinking of something extreme, right? And they just simply cannot handle any more workload. They're blacklisting them. They're changing everything. But the other team might be like, "Hey, it's more work. Hey, we're fine with it." So you never know. I mean, again, we're spitballing, we're kind of brainstorming at this point, but again, we're going to stay optimistic and hope that they maybe resolve this. But who knows? Maybe with this kind of outing, with this anonymous user, which I'm so glad that they're anonymous, because I do think that this is something that they need to be careful about. But at the same time, this is something that needs to be, spoken about, because I think something should change. But Wes, what are your closing thoughts about this issue, and what do you remain optimistic about moving forward?
Well, I mean, if it is true, like I don't like the whole bullying thing, and I
Right.
think that they need to resolve it if that's how it really is. But like I said, there's two sides to every story. So, and if this is just a disgruntled employee that wants to like kind of out it and get their name out there,
It's
kind of
possible.
BS.
It's
So, and
possible.
it could happen. So for me, uh, final thoughts are, like if they are bullying, need to stop. You know what I'm saying? And they need to make sure that they resolve it and they talk to their effects artist. Um, and they're a big part of the film, so
Yeah.
you don't want them to just revolt and do all that. But at the same time, you're making a huge movie that's making a ton of money. So
Yep.
you know, everybody needs to get along. Everybody needs to be on the same page. So whether somebody's got their feelings hurt or whatever, just resolve it, man, and like let's make some really great movies, going forward. So
Right.
that's my hope for it. So,
Totally
but
agree.
anyway, I want to let you guys know you can find me at West Rathbone 86 on Twitter and all that good stuff. So, Gabe, let them know where they can find you, and we can wrap this thing up, man.
All right, so you can simply find me at Voice of Film. Just search for me on Twitter and TikTok there. Follow my shenanigans online. Yeah, so this was a great installment of Hollywood in Minutes. We appreciate each and every one of you that have watched this. I know it's been a little lengthy, but I feel like this is something that we should talk about. This is something that's what this page is for. We're skeptical about some things, and it's important to talk about these subjects because we have a voice to be heard, and that goes back to the whole name and identity of my channel at Voice of Film. And it's more than just movies. It's a collaboration, it's a team effort. And but no, we appreciate each and every one of you. We had a new subscriber. Thank you so much for the people that have been watching our videos and liked and commented and all that kind of stuff. So definitely let us know what your favorite topic was out of the three. Let us know your thoughts on this VFX issue. Do you think it's a big issue? Do you think it's something not to sneeze at? Let us know in the comments. Thank you. Don't forget to drop a comment, like, subscribe, share, all that kind of good stuff. You know what to do. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see y'all in the next video.